Welcome to the Last American Vagabond. Excited to have Brian Young from High Impact Flicks and many other channels back today to join me to discuss all the madness, many different things we're going to get into. Brian and I have connected many times over the years. I greatly respect his work. He is just, errs on the side of, like to a fault, on the side of what's moral, what's, integrity, constitutionality, like everything that is very important to me. And so ultimately, for how long he's been doing this, he is somebody that I hold in the highest regard in the consistency of those principles. And it's something that I'm constantly talking about today, how frustrating it is in the paradigm, in the two-party illusion, how often people will ignore or completely forego their principles, their integrity because of the team that they're on. And so Brian's coming on today to discuss that amongst many other things, Iran, immigration, whatever else we decide to get into. Brian, how are you, brother?
Holy cow, that's quite a humbling introduction. I appreciate it. How are you doing?
I'm good, brother. And I mean that wholeheartedly, man. I mean, there's few people out there in this field that I've seen maintain the consistency of their principles, which, it's just being honest, really, like people who just care about what they believe in. It's funny to say that, like that should be something so profound, people to just maintain consistency in what they believe. But it is. It's rare today, and I just feel it's important to shout those things out, man.
And I hate to sound meme-ish, but the meme is true. It's like everything that I needed to know in life, I learned in kindergarten. Don't hit people, don't take their stuff, don't threaten people, It's like that's everything the government does 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, while they tell you not to do the same thing they're doing to you.
Exactly, man. Yeah, and it's just worthy of praise to do that, and people that are out there trying to, it's I think there's a lot of people coming in new to this field that, it's funny. The analogy that comes to mind is like, kids that grow up watching the Jersey Shore or something like that, who try to emulate that, who feel like that's who they should be like, and it's like dangerous because there's so many manipulating podcasters and, mainstream alternative media out there that are guiding people in the wrong direction, and there's a lot of people out there that I think demonstrate, just principles that we should be guided by, and I think that's important to highlight. But, let's start with kind of that overlap in general around, the two-party illusion. It's something that you and I have talked about quite a lot in the past. And I think that, it's kind of just madness today right now. And I mean, let me just ask you that point blank to start, because to me, it seems crazy. Like, does it feel different to you than it has in the past? Like maybe kind of the inflection point of the last election process, does it feel like it's gotten crazier to you?
It does, but it does for a different reason than somebody might guess. And that is we have access to so much information right now. I mean, we don't even have to look it up anymore. We can get an app on our phone like Grok or ChatGPT and just with our eyes closed, ask it a question and get all this information. So with all this information that we have and the moral underpinning all of us are supposed to have, and yet we continue to go to the polls year after year, expecting a different result for the same exact activity we've been doing for the last couple decades is insane to me. And you know what scares me but specifically voting for Donald Trump, and let me just go ahead and put the caveat in there. This goes with Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Barack Obama, because invariably if I start talking about Trump, people are like, oh, this is a leftist lunatic libtard, man. Just go and write him off, click off of this broadcast right now. But the thing that scares me is that what happens...
Sorry, go ahead. I had it pulled up from before. It's like it's exactly what you're talking about right there.
Oh, okay.
Tahlequah, because you point something else out, But.
Yeah, exactly. What happens when somebody far more deceptive than Donald Trump comes along, speaking more right things? Like, let's say they go, you know what we're going to do? If you vote for me, I am going to end the income tax. I am going to abolish the IRS. We're going to institute a sound money system and phase out the Federal Reserve. What if he says all the right things? You know what's going to happen when he gets into the office? He's going to do the exact wrong thing because he's controlled by the real controllers that we don't vote for and weren't elected. So what scares me is when if somebody far more deceptive, far more silver-tongued than a Donald Trump or a Barack Obama comes along and starts issuing all these promises and then gets us even deeper into trouble. I mean, if you're going to still vote for Donald Trump, knowing that in the 1990s, he was literally bailed out by Rothschild's Inc. under Wilbur Ross. 25 years later, Wilbur Ross becomes the Trump-appointed Commerce Secretary. It almost looks like there's no hope.
Yeah, and this is what's so important to recognize is this is not just some, last week, last year, last 4 years dynamic. It's been going on a long time. And then you overlap that with current, like, this is what's so frustrating to those that have been paying attention this long, or even just before this administration, that, just the immediate contradiction of what was promised, what's actually happening, despite the cries of all the people that want you to believe that whatever happens today was exactly what was promised. A Stargate platform within the first days, what are the things that stand out to you? Let's put it that way, of things that are contradictory to what was promised in like very bombastic ways.
Well, let me just start with Trump's first term. Like, I would give people I am more apt to give somebody a pass, not really, but more of a pass in 2016, not knowing what Donald Trump's all about. But now with 4 years, a full term already in office, he raised the national debt higher than Obama did in 8 years. He did it in 4. And a lot of people like to talk, well, it was $8.4 trillion. But if you add the $4 trillion Federal Reserve backstop into that, Donald Trump actually raised the national debt, which devalues the currency value, which we all work for, $12.4 trillion in 4 years. Obama can only muster $8.6 trillion in 8 years. So we have the first full term of Donald Trump devaluing the currency, saying, take the guns first, due process second, initiating red flag gun confiscation law, was bailed out by the Rothschilds, Inc., Operation Warp Speed, fathered the VAXX. I mean, how can people look you in the eye and actually be serious about, no, Donald Trump is make America first? What you're actually saying is the father of the vaccine is make America first. The guy who oversaw the biggest power and wealth transfer, not just in America, but in the world, is America first. When you demolish and you take an axe to the value of the product of people's time and labor, you are an enemy of the people. You are absolutely not America first. You're, I hate America. So what ticks me off is that people have a history of these people, but they're still voting for the political parasites that aim to put them in change. I like to quote Daniel Webster, who rightly said, good intentions will always be pleaded for every assumption of authority. Every demand for power is prefaced by, we've got good intentions. We're going to put stuff in place that's going to help America. We're going to lead us to prosperity. And he says, the Constitution was made to guard the people against the dangers of good intentions. There are men in all ages who mean to govern well, but they mean to govern. They promise to be good masters, but they mean to be your masters. That's Trump, that's Kamala Harris, that's Joe Biden, but they're just the bankster puppets. The Rothschilds are still in control no matter who you vote for, Democrat or Republican.
Yeah, exactly. And I've heard you say that before, and I think that's a profound and important thing to think about, because the implication there is, in many cases, people that mean to do bad, but there are plenty that may actually believe what they say and may intend to do something good, but the reality being that the structure, the system is built in a way that never allows that to come to pass, and it's so obvious. But so in your mind right there, you mentioned the bankers, Rothschilds, the different connective points to this history. So what do you think is your implication suggests that there's somebody else in charge, right? Or like pulling the strings. Elaborate on that for me. Like, what do you think the moving parts are? I have my opinions we can get into, but what do you think is, whether Trump or Biden or Obama, what do you think is like the driving force behind this?
We can springboard off of Amschel Rothschild's quote, famous quote, give me control over a nation's money and I care not who makes its laws. If you're actually in control of the money supply that everybody in your nation works for, what does it matter what a senator or a congressman or a governor or even a president does? You actually control the issuance and value of the currency. And if you've got your hands on that lever of control, you have your hands around everybody's neck and you have your boot on everybody's head. Amschel Rothschilds knew this. The international bankers knew this. That's why in 1913, when they set up the Federal Reserve, and nobody even likes to talk about this anymore. It's like old, outdated, antiquated. Brian, you sound like a broken record, but it's like, yeah, but it's like trying to put out a fire by shooting the water over the top of the flames instead of getting at the base where the fire is actually being stoked. If you don't put an axe at the root of the real problems in this country, you want to get rid of war, get rid of cheap, easy fiat currency, Ponzi scheme credit. The Constitution was supposed to constrain the risks of the bankers through silver and gold being the only sound money. And why is it called sound money? Because you can't create gold and you can't create silver. At least you can't right now. I mean, I know you can create diamonds. You can get these these seed initiated fabricated diamonds that look like the real thing, and they test like they're the real thing, but you can't create gold and silver. So when you have a money supply that is anchored to and cemented in a sound structure like real gold and real silver, then you can't have wars. You can't have the IRS. You can't enforce income tax laws, because you can only fund those with cheap, easy credit. So the way out is to, and I know we got to like back away slowly because everything is hooked to the fiat currency Ponzi scheme. And if you pull it out, a lot of people will die. Like, what's there, 72 million people on Social Security? They would not do very well if you pulled that out. But we can slowly convert to alternative methods like, cryptocurrency or anything that is of real value. And I know that there's a lot of people against Bitcoin, they're against Ethereum and all that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to push that, but there are alternative means of currency. You can barter, you can move away from the American dollar, you can actually charge and try and jail the international banking cartel. So unless you put the axe at the root of the tree, you're never going to solve the problem. The only way we can have and fund wars is through cheap, easy credit. By the way, a lot of people think this is money. This is currency, and it does act as money, but this is, it even says on the front of it, it's a Federal Reserve note. It's literally a note of debt. You are owned by the bankers when you own these things right here. You don't have anything of value. The good thing about it is there's perceived value, so you can actually buy a coffee cup or eggs or gold with it right now until it's eked out of existence.